We are Soccerphiles Canada. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Trinidad and Tobago. Part 2, the selections. Here we go! Compiled in what we call our Spotlight Review. Spotlight Review. I don't even know why we call it that. Anyway, we begin with the manager, and that is Dwight York, and we consider him a selection for the final squad. He'll be leading them through the cup. For goalkeepers, we had a definite candidate in Denzel Smith, and he was selected. Likely candidate Jabari St. Hilaire, also selected, and possible candidate Marvin Phillip. One of 4 possible candidates, he was the one selected. The 3 other ones only named to the preliminary squad: Adrian Fonset, Christopher Biggett, and Aaron Enil. Generally, we won't talk about players at the possible but unlikely level or below, but in this case, we will note that the starting keeper in 2023 was Nicholas Frenderup in the 2023 Gold Cup, and he is now retired. So, after talking it through, we ended up with our predictions as being possible starters Marvin Phillips or Denzel Smith in that order. Okay, we move on to central defence, and we had no candidates at the likely level. At the definite level. Both of our likely candidates, David Aubrey and Justin Garcia, surprisingly not selected for the final squad, just for the preliminary squad. It was both of our possible candidates, Sheldon Bateau and Josiah Trimmingham, selected for the final squad there. In terms of predictions, very confused in central defence. We can't predict a definite or even a likely starter, but we think possible starters would be those 2 we mentioned, Sheldon Bateau and Josiah Trimmingham. That sounds very obvious, but actually Trinidad and Tobago use left and right defenders quite a bit in central defence, and we think if they go with the 3-man defence, which we think they will, right back Alvin Jones is the main candidate to come back into the defence there. But surprising, just 2 central defenders there. Usually there's 5 or 6. We move on to left back. Also no definite candidates here, but 2 likely candidates in Andre Raymond and Darnell Hospitalis. Both of those selected for the final squad. For our possible candidates, Tristan Hodge only made the preliminary squad, and Ross Russell Jr. not even getting that far. Our predictions there. Again, we can't predict a definite or likely starter. Things have been too unsettled, but we would say Darnell Hospitalis or Andre Raymond, the 2 players we mentioned. But we also have left winger Tyrese Spicer. Also a possible player back here on the left. Let's go to right backs. We do have a definite candidate here, one of the few positions where we do. It's Alvin Jones, who we just mentioned. He was selected for the final squad. However, our likely candidate, Shannon Gomez, not selected, just for the preliminary squad there. Rather, our possible candidate was selected, Isaiah Garcia, for the final squad. The other possible candidate, Jesse Williams, also just making the preliminary squad. And we do have a new candidate here. It is Rio Cardines. We put him at the right back here, even though he plays as on the right side. He's played once as a right back and once as a right attacking midfielder. So we're not dead sure. We may have to change his coding. Anyway, in terms of predictions, we think Alvin Jones will definitely start on the right if they use that position. If he's not in central defence. If he is, or if he's absent, we would say Isaiah Garcia first and Rio Cardine second. That's our prediction. Okay, that is the defense. We move on to defensive midfield. Here too, no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Noah Powder, who was selected for the final squad. Our possible candidate, Michel Poonangaron, just making the preliminary squad there. And we're going to finish all the candidates on this side in the central midfield before we get to predictions. We have more central midfielders than defensive midfielders. We do have a definite candidate, in fact, here, and that is Andre Rampersad, who was selected for the final squad. Our first likely candidate, Daniel Phillips, also selected for the final squad, but our second likely candidate, Dante Gilbert, just making the preliminary squad. That pattern is true for the possible candidates. Our first one, Stefan Yeats, making the final squad, but our second, John Paul Rochford, only the preliminary squad. And a possible but unlikely player, Wayne Frederick, making the final squad there. That central midfielders, and we didn't have any left or right midfielders at the possible level or above, so we go back to look at our predictions. Here too, we weren't brave enough to name a definite starter, but we thought likely starters Daniel Phillips and Andre Rampersad, and a possible starter Noah Powder, who is coded as a left back but has been starting in defensive midfield during this period. Okay, on to the attacking end of the midfield, and we begin with left attackers. We have a likely candidate in Jovin Jones, who was selected, and then three possible candidates. The first of them, Rion Moore, only made the preliminary squad, but the other two made the final squad. That's Ajani Fortune and the aforementioned Tyrese Spicer, who sometimes plays in left defense as well. And we have a new candidate here. It is Dante Seeley. He's coded as a left winger, but in fact has been starting on the right, so we might have to recode him. But anyway, here he is. So 4 candidates there. However, our conclusion after much nail biting was that we can't identify a starter on this side. It's been just too unsettled for us to see any candidate that even seems likely. Over we go to right attackers, and no definite or likely candidates here. Possible candidate Ryan Telfer was not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad, but Kaheem Thomas, also at the possible level, selected for the final squad. Over here, we initially couldn't identify a starter, but after starting both of the World Cup qualifiers in June, Dante Seeley now seems like a likely starter. Okay, on we go to the central attacking midfield. We had no definite candidates here, but both of our likely candidates made it. That is Kevin Molino and Nathaniel James, both on the final squad. Our possible candidate, Dwayne Muckett, just making the preliminary squad there. They don't use this position that much, about half of the time, and so we think if it is being used, it'll be Kevin Molino, the likely starter there. On to the forwards, we have a player coded as a striker, a secondary striker at the likely level, Real Gill, and he was selected for the final squad. And then we have the main forwards, where there's, again, no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Isaiah Lee, who was selected for the final squad. We have 2 possible candidates here. The first of them, Kevon Woodley, not even making the preliminary squad there, but the second, Brent Sam, on the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. However, one of our possible but unlikely candidates made a comeback. It's Levi Garcia, who was selected for the final squad. And we have a new candidate here in forward Isaiah Leacock, also making the final squad. Where that leaves us in terms of predicted starters, again, we can't predict a definite starter here. It's too unsettled, but likely starter, we would say Isaiah Lee, and possible starter, left attacker Jovin Jones, has been starting more up front than on the left over here. All right, that brings us to the end of our Spotlight Review. Check us out by searching International Soccer Preview. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.